Welcome, welcome to She's All Over the Place. So happy to have you here. Today, I have a guest for you. His name is Alan Steinfeld, and he has really been all over the place, and we're going to talk about that today. He has a brand new book called Making Contact. Not only does he have a brand new book, Alan, thank you so much for inviting me. This week, he had a book signing, and not only did he have a book signing, he had a book signing with Deepak Chopra, who's his really good friend for over 20 years. And Deepak, if you go to Deepak's Twitter or his YouTube channel, they have a 1-hour conversation that you can tune into. And I would just like to read something in Alan's new book called Making Contact. So it's called From Deepak Chopra himself. Okay, I have some things to say about this. So Deepak, his endorsement says, and he has so many endorsements, but here's the very first one. Deepak says, we cannot separate the earth from its greater cosmic environment. What is needed is a new story, and Alan Steinfeld's Making Contact is part of that story. Deepak Chopra, author of Total Meditation.
Yes, he was very kind to do that. And he's really about consciousness, the evolution of consciousness and civilization, and how we're going to make this planet workable for everyone. You know, after you achieve a level of success, all you really want to do is give back. And he's really one of the top leaders in human potential and the consciousness movement. And so he's looking at many aspects of what is the nature of reality, which has been my sort of pet project. What is the nature of reality? Who are we? Why have we come here? What's our purpose? And where are we going? So I've been talking about this for a long time, like this. And so I put all those questions into this book.
I love this. I love this. And what you said specifically is what I love as well. Consciousness and exploring and discovering and new discoveries, and it's unfolding, it's an evolution. And you know, when I was actually last week watching the 1 hour of you and Deepak and him interviewing you on his platform, you know, I was reflecting and laughing because most people, I've done, you know, Deepak, Oprah's 21-day abundance meditations. I've done so many of them. My sister turned me on to it years ago, and I've shared it, you know, as a ripple effect to so many other people. But most people in this world who find, discover, know Deepak, or are on the journey of Deepak and his evolution and sharing, most people in the world are fascinated by him. And you know, in that same exact moment of knowing everything I just shared and more of what I'm not saying, in the beginning of his interview, Deepak, when everyone is so enticed with him and what he has to say, he's fascinated by you, Alan Steinfeld.
Oh, thank you. You know, because I talk about things outside of the mainstream. Like I was talking to him once, we met somewhere, and I said, you know, crop circles are communications from extraterrestrial higher consciousness. And he said, I thought all those were fake. I said, Deepak, don't listen to what the mainstream talks about. And he said, okay, come on my show. I went on his Sirius radio show when he had that. And we talked about crop circles. And he said, wow, well, there's something to that. So he's open-minded. And you see, he's very mainstream consciousness. And I'm sort of on the edge. I'm looking for those new realities. I'm looking for the unknown. I'm going outside the box. I think Deepak plays a very important role of being a bridge from mainstream awareness to a spiritual understanding. But I'm not a mainstream person, so I'm not really concerned about appealing to the mainstream. That's not my audience. So I can go further out on a limb, I think, because if people don't like what I'm saying or don't believe me, well, I don't really care. My reputation is not dependent on what the mainstream thinks. Of course, the more mainstream people interested in this, but I'm here to break the boundaries of culture. You know, Terence McKenna said, culture is not your friend, which means that we are confined by the limitations of what we're allowed to think. I want to push those boundaries and say nothing is impossible. It's all within our reach. If you can think it, you can be it, you can know it, you can have it. All those levels of cognitive creation are right here available for us because we are divine, magical beings. I mean, how could we not be?
I love everything you're saying. Yes, totally. Exactly. And I'm percolating in so many ways. So a couple things I would like to say is one, crop circles and that you're talking about. And because of you, I've seen them before years ago, but because of you and new realities, we'll get into that. I actually Googled and I'm like, oh yeah, crop circles. Cause it was like, okay, it's a coin phrase that, and I've seen it, but it's been a while. But now that, you mentioned it again just now, and I was able to look it up and see brushstrokes of stories of what people say about crop circles. So maybe someone tuning in, in the audio or the video can look up crop circles and be like, what are crop circles? And that's why we're here today. We're here to share and inspire you. And we're here to just like share stories, and to like educate people on, things maybe they are familiar and like, oh, here's that word again, or it perks their interest to maybe explore some more. So there's not an exact of how something should be, but it's an exploration, and take what vibes with you and go for it. And then whatever doesn't serve you or you don't attune to, it could just be right now. It could be in the moment. We can only show up for ourselves, and, and we can only be like open so much. And we can talk more about that in a little bit, but new realities. So new realities is your show for over 3 decades, and it's on Manhattan cable, and then YouTube started, and you were one of the very first creators on YouTube. So let's talk
about, I had all this material. I had,
yeah.
20 years of material. My girlfriend used to say, what are you doing with all those videos? I said, well, something will come up. And she's the one that found YouTube. And I said, oh, this is what we're doing with all those videos. We're going to post them forever on YouTube. And it was kind of just something I think no one had really thought of. Some people had the idea, but no one thought about just posting videos all the time. I mean, we just relied on television. So it took a change of consciousness. So every change is a change in consciousness. And this is what this book is about. Preparing for the new realities of extraterrestrial existence is the subtitle. So what does that mean, preparing? How do you prepare for something? You prepare by making yourself available to the unknown, right? Mm-hmm. The unknown is that white canvas, that white sheet of paper.
Yeah, and the unknown, it's that fine line. I have a musical duo, the Sophisticated Psychos, and it's that fine line of crazy or genius, right? It's like walking on that small white line and going into the unknown. For example, you go to the unknown, to a party, you don't know anyone, people could be petrified. Or you go to a party and you don't know anyone, which I love, because at the end of it, I'm a social butterfly and I'm friends with everyone. But that would terrify someone to do that. So the unknown, and preparing for the unknown. And it's like, right now we have the unknown of the unknown. For example, we didn't know there was going to be a pandemic. We didn't know there was going to be a YouTube. We didn't know there was going to be a streaming services. There's so many things that we still don't know. And so right. in your book, there's 11 people, including yourself. So there's 12, and you go around and you've been studying UFO, this whole entire intergalactic space for over 2 decades now, right? And then you went to the top people, Barbara Lamb, and you can, name some other people, Nick Pope, and they're top in their fields. And then you
Whitley Strieber, Linda Moulton Howe, John Mack. Yes, these are the top of the field. Yes.
And you got them, you could, because of your beautiful relationship. I look at it as like a garden. You have interest, you by chance meet these people, or you go reach these people, you sow a seed, you water it, you plant it, you nourish it. So you've been friends with these people. You've been sharing collective consciousness.
You go out to lunch with them. You talk about, you don't just talk about you talk about life, everything. You talk about the whole world. And I like these people. They're very intelligent people. They have a much wider perspective than most people you meet. They're not talking about the baseball game or their shoes or you know, where they're going shopping next week. They're talking about these deep issues like, what is the nature of reality? What is the nature of existence? Who are we really as human beings? This is what I'd rather talk about than the baseball game. Nothing wrong with that. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but what interests you? And the big questions interest me.
Yes. And speaking on this, like these are your friends. Like you're learning from one another and they're the top in their field. So you were able to be a vessel to take all your collective consciousness of their collective consciousness thus far, and then the people who became before them to share this to present in the 21st century to
Right,
people like me, to the person who's tuning in, to the people who have an idea or who want to learn more, or maybe they're new in this world to
right,
understand making contact. So you put this into a book, and
right.
then so that's really exciting. People
No,
can
I
get it.
encapsulate 75 years of history. I mean, that's not what the phenomenon goes back to Roswell, 1947, July. So, but all the intricacies, this is not just about saucers, objects in the sky. This has to do with how it's modifying our ability to perceive the world, ourselves. Who are we really? How do we have telepathy and downloads and remote viewing and empathy and compassion? All the things that make us human and beyond human. This book tries to encapsulate that because it is our moment of evolution. We're on the threshold of something new, something unknown, something that would have seemed impossible until we're right at the doorstep, because the government has admitted these things are real. They actually have said whatever's out there is not Russian, it's not Chinese, it's not ours, it is unknown. And some have gone to as far as to say it is otherworldly, it is interdimensional, it is of a higher consciousness. They are using quantum physics, not Newtonian physics. There's realms and realms of new perceptions that are becoming available to us because we're finished with a kind of old system. It's collapsing, you know, in systems theories, when there's so much information that the old form can't hold it anymore, the system collapses. And unless there's a new, more viable structure underneath, it just dissolves. But a new structure underneath increases the information to a new level of complexity. And this is where we're going as a culture, to a new level of complexity, meaning that this 3D reality is not the only thing. We are functioning on many levels of reality. That's part of the new complexity that's going on.
Thank you. And then I love everything you're sharing. Some I get a brushstroke of something. Some people say the people in the materialistic world, right? In the world of the materialistic things, right, are maybe younger souls here. And do you identify with that a bit?
Well, my cosmology, understanding of spirituality is that all souls were created at once
Hmm.
from the flash of inspiration that created consciousness. And so we diversified into these individualities, but what you're saying is young souls are those that haven't had a chance to incarnate as much and learn the lessons of human experience. So we're here in the body, in these forms, to learn about the human experience, right? And so if you've had many lifetimes, you can call those older souls. Yeah, they've had more experiences. Like Katie, this is not your first rodeo, okay? You've been around the block a few times in a good way. You know,
Yeah.
you have all this other worldly, other lifetime experiences you're drawing on in order to connect and communicate with people. But others that are, let's call them, you could call them young souls, or they haven't had the experience of incarnation as much, are here to learn those lessons, learn the human realm. They may need to learn empathy or love or compassion, or, I mean, we're here to have it all. then I think you get off the wheel of incarnation. Once you've owned the human experience, when you could look at everyone and say, I felt that, I've been that. You've been the poor person on the street, you've been the rich person in the penthouse. When you can say, I felt it all, then you complete this realm, this schoolhouse, this level of incarnation, and then you go to the next level where there's more and more. So the soul remembers each experience as an emotional imprint. And when you've owned an experience, you've gained the pearl of wisdom of that experience. And that means you've completed a level, in a sense. That's how I understand it. This is just my kind of story of mythology, of mythologizing the spiritual progress. I mean, there are many stories. So this is the one that I feels the most real to me, but it's still a story. It's not any more real than anybody else's.
And it's so beautiful. Thank you. I'm just like taking in the moment. It's like, yeah, soaking it up. And in addition to what you're saying, you can back it up by, for example, when people are on New Realities YouTube, I mean, all the people you've interviewed and connected with, for example, Dr. Hawkins, the American psychiatrist, he's so brilliant. And I've watched so many of his videos and he's a legend. And so you've got the depth of his soul and his wisdom and the science and the knowledge of who he is and what he studied and what he's about. So
and I'm passing that on to you, Katie.
And you're passing it on to me specifically and the listener and the viewer. So, I mean, this is magnificent.
But I have to say, I didn't agree with everything Hawkins did, because when he would measure certain levels of people's consciousness, this is 700s, 500, they were always through his own body's kinesiology. And I said to him, isn't that, prejudice based on what you're thinking it is? And he goes, no, I'm clear. And no one is, we're all coming through a filter. So I didn't agree. I mean, yes, maybe some of his understanding of energetic measurements were whatever they truly were, but I think some others were influenced by his own ideas of what he thought they were. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Other people may not agree.
Yeah, but the also, though, it's great that he showed up and was able to have a clear distinction on A, B, yes, no. And then when from the interview and all, the relationship you had with him, you were able to take the gems with you on your journey, and whatever didn't align with you, you were able just to dismantle and let it go. And you didn't bring that forth through your consciousness sharing right now. And so same thing with the person tuning in, they're going to attune to certain things, and then some things they're not going to attune to, and that's totally fine. But like take the gift of the evolution of the conscious conversation and and keep it flowing.
Well, that's why I wrote this book. It's from many different perspectives. It's not just my opinion. So take what resonates with you, or be open to what doesn't resonate, and see if it can stir something, and put the picture together yourself. What is making contact? What does that mean to you? What is contact? Who would want to make contact with us? What are these other beings? But, this takes thinking outside the box. If you're just hanging out with your friends and you're going out and eating rest, which is all fine, most people don't think about this. And then there's other people say, yeah, I saw something in the sky. I had a strange experience. I saw a ghost. I felt my relatives come through. I felt, I saw a mystical vision. So this is what I'm opening up to.
Okay. So I want to share, speaking of all of this, and we mentioned Barbara Lamb. So I want to read what she wrote in your book. Making Contact is the most comprehensive book I have ever read about the UFO ET phenomenon. It is a powerful introduction for people discovering this field of interest, and a rich resource for people well acquainted with the phenomenon. A fascinating read. Barbara Lamb, contact regression therapist, speaker, and author. And
right.
It's
I
so
have so much respect for Barbara. She has been on the front line. She is like the grand dame of the UFO abduction experience. She regresses people. So she's heard and seen it all. And to get that sort of recommendation from her, I was really honored because she's been around. She knows what's out there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you, I learned about her because of you. And then gratefully, thank you so much. You invited me to the hybrid conference that you're a part of, collectively with Wish Alliance. And
Well, tell people what hybrids are because I don't think
yeah.
that. Well, you want to tell them? You tell them.
No, I
Let's see
think
what.
you need to tell
Well,
them.
I'm curious about what you learned.
Sure, sure. Okay, sure. Let's talk about that. So, a couple things I would like to say. First, Barbara is, when I look at her, she could be my grandmother, literally. So
Definitely.
the way she speaks is so calm and so eloquent. And since she's literally, as you would say, been around the block or been around the centuries or the decades, decades, I would say, that she is so cool, calm, and collective. And it's not the woo woo of like the colors and the space, and that's where it loses a lot of people. So she's really grounded in the way she speaks of what we're talking about, the topic of the unknown and the
Right.
mystical of what could be, but not making it a fantasy, because I think a lot of people judge it when it becomes that. So I want to have like here a real grounded conversation so people, and I can explain why you invited me to the conference. And
Right.
I'm an artist. I think you're definitely an artist. And we're artists, and people tuning in are artists. And some people, I think we're all artists in a way. But I am very open. What I reflected about hybrid conference before we get into the hybrids, when I was in this hybrid conference, 8 hours one day, listening intently, just learning. I know I'm a very open-minded person, and I know what people say about me, oh, I'm out there, or I'm wild, or I'm crazy, or this and this. And I'm like, no, I'm not wild and crazy. Like, this is normal. I'm a seeker. I'm interested. Like, there's so much out there. Let's get going. and then I'm in it, and there's some things I'm vibing with. There's brushstrokes of what I've heard, of what I know, and then I'm learning a bunch of things that we can talk about. But what I reflected was in the moment of how open I am, and I think I'm one of the most open people, how I could be in that position and think, oh, this is a bit out there, or this is a bit this or that. And I'm like, oh, that's how people think about me when I'm normally me. Now I understand how they are when I'm normally me, because I'm like this when people who are more evolved or in advance or more into this topic than I am, like, or, learned and spent more time here. Although I'm like open to it, I haven't been obsessed with it or made it my life duty as you have, and the people in the book, every single day. But I've known about from years. So that was a really big understanding for me, to respect other human beings of where they are, because I know the openness of the evolution of the consciousness of the free will and the unknown and the exciting. But I also understand the detriment and the judgment on the other side of being closed off and not knowing. And it could be scary what you don't know. And then having more compassion for the people who are maybe in that position, and also maybe like, not, I don't want to say dumbing it down, but grounding it so it's not some woo-woo thing, because it's already so much for people to comprehend. Like to make any of that woo-woo on top of it in sometime quote unquote spiritual talk, it's over people's heads, and it's a different language. And two things: one, language is like when we're babies, we're feeling all this stuff inside, but we don't have the words. And then someone like your friend, Dr. Joe Dispenza, says something specifically, and then you're like, oh, that's what I was meaning to say. There's a language to it. So you're in the language of all these people, and some people, this is a new foreign language. So like taking baby steps with it. So I think it's an important thing for us to do that in this space.
And we're also creating a new language, because we're actually connecting with concepts that are beyond words. These ETs, whatever they are, they do not think as language as we understand it. They don't. It's more a cluster of meanings, where it's more like emojis. You say You give someone a thumbs up, that just doesn't mean yes, it means right on. It means so many different things, this kind of cluster of symbols. So the understanding that language is a communication of symbols that are not concretized as one thing, but mean many associated things, I think is a new way that we're communicating, or need to communicate.
Yeah, and breaking it down even more, Neil in the hybrid conference was talking about Tibetan chants and meditation. And I love, ever since I was a kid, I love Tibetan chant, sound, meditation, and the vibration, the vibration of the sound. So he was saying that the ETs aren't speaking, like you said, with the language of the word. They're more speaking maybe of the emoji of
Right.
of the sound, of the vibration, and that's
It
how
is
they're
vibration. It is like a vibratory communication. It's not specifics. It's an impression of feelings. Its feelings are the key.
Yeah, and see, when you have universe, right? Music is the key that connects us all through sound, vibration, through a feeling. And there's so many words and thoughts going on, but people feel so much more than words could ever say when they hear a song. And even if we don't speak the same language, we all have all these different feelings happening.
Right. I think music is a real key to understanding a greater consciousness, because words can be very limiting. So we have to intuit, we have to feel what everyone's saying. We have to open our hearts, open our feeling senses. So I'm trying to feel what you're saying here. And I just love your excitement, because, you know, you're hungry for knowledge.
Thirsting for it. And our mutual friend Jeff Carrillo, he's the one that taught me. He gave me a bunch of audios, and I learned from him that universe, one song means universe. That's the meaning of the universe, one song. And that's how we all,
Universe,
yeah,
one verse, song,
yeah,
yes.
right. And that's
And
how,
what is that one song?
what is that one song?
It's harmony, it's love, it's a peace, it's the tranquility of being, it's the it's dropping beyond the mind into a place of pure feeling. That's the song.
So let's talk about that for a moment. So you were mentioning the heart, and I would like to lead by saying, one, as you already know, we have over 40,000 neurons in our heart. It's so intelligent, our heart. However, in life, we're very primal beings, but we've been taught to be domesticated. We've been taught to stay confined in our own cages of no, to cut yourself short, to not take up space. So you're saying for the love and to be in the love of it, but people have to learn how to be in the love and how to trust.
Well, to let go of their mind, you know, to let go of what they have been brainwashed and conditioned to think. If we can let go of this idea of the personality of who you think you are, and forget your identity that has confined you because you like this baseball, you like this politician, people identify with things, and then when you insult or say something about something that's not even connected to you except by your belief system, people get offended because they have identified self with these forms, and that's not who they are. You know, that nothing, you are not your personality, Katie. You're not your history. You're not your face or your body. You're none of that. You know who you are? Do you know?
Yes, yes, yes.
Who are you then? Tell
No
me.
thing.
Yes, so no thing that is, you know, a presence, a being, you know, that is. So we have to let go of all the identifications, like I am this. Anytime you have a word after I am, you have limited yourself into doing that. And that's not who we are. We're nothing that we could think, because it's not about thinking, it's about being. So your left brain is only half your reality. The right brain, the intuitive part, the creative part, the part that's tapped into the unseen is the other part. But you need both. You need both left and right in order to be a whole brain creature and function with rationality and intuition and creativity and love and predictability and, I mean, practicality in a sense. But follow what the feelings are telling you. Follow those feelings. And you know, I think Einstein said that your intellect will get you from A to B, but your imagination will get you everywhere else. So it's like we are in this magical universe and we make it into things. Oh, that's a tree. That's a wall. That's a plant. But if you ever go up to a tree and forget that it's a tree, then you're standing face to face with an incredible being, an incredible living, pulsing reality of creation that has no identity. It's just you and that, or whatever that thing, or an animal. It's just like, don't identify things. Don't identify yourself. One of my favorite cartoons was from New Yorker magazine. You know New Yorker magazine?
Love.
All right. So there's a guy at the bar and he's kind of drunk and he's yelling at the bartender saying, "Hey, pal, you have no idea who I think I am." So we all have this story about ourselves, but it's just a story. And it may have happened, but it's not real now. There is no reality to your past story except the ones that you reinforce. So you're free right this minute, Katie, to be anything, think anything, do anything, and feel everything.
So I love what you're saying, and I would just like to say thank you. And I would also like to say, based on what you're saying, it's really exciting because you know what you're talking about and I know what you're talking about because I've done it so many times. And because I've done it so many times, I know it's possible. But I know there's a bunch of people through along my journey thus far. I know there's a lot of people who don't know what you're talking about and who don't know what I've experienced to know what you're talking about. So they're always in that victimized survival. They've never seen the grass greener on the other side. They've never been not attached to their own suffering, that there's like that black wall where it's like they can't get past it to detach
So
from.
how do we help those people? What do you do?
Exactly. So this
Well,
is
how
what,
do you, well,
well,
how can we? Are you
well,
asking me?
well, I wanted to ask you, what
Oh, I
is
was
a
going to ask
step?
you.
Okay. Well, we can go there, but first,
No,
please,
you can ask me. Go ahead.
you are
You
my
ask me.
guest, please.
Okay.
But I
What are
would
you
like to
asking?
know what, it doesn't have to be one, it doesn't have to be one or two, but what's one or two or three, however many examples and brushstrokes or ideas or specific things, that steps you take, Alan Steinfeld, to know, to be aware. I'm in my territory. How do you catch the awareness that you're in it, for one thing, and what steps do you do to get to that place?
Well, when you say my name, I'm then reminded about all the things I think I am. No, it's okay. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay. So
It's true
I
though.
think the best place is sitting in nature. Really, that when you are just sitting in the forest or by a river or actually at the ocean, and you're just staring at what's the world around you, and there's maybe no one around. There's the sense of identity and self, and this story starts to dissolve because there's no one there to uphold your story to. When you wake up in the morning, you have to tell yourself who you are every day just in order to, and that's a good thing because you have to go out in the world, but that's never who you are. People who are victimized by their history, they think that they're in their history and they carry it with them. And there's no need to do it. We're all present beings right now.
Mm-hmm.
And when that's another technique. There's nature and there's just right here, right now. Do you know what I mean by right here, right now? What do I mean? What do you think I mean?
Being right here, right now.
Yeah, what does that mean to you?
To me, it's being present, open, aware. I'm
And
here
how do you be present?
by listening.
That's one way, yeah.
Um,
But
an- Another way, if someone wants to know if you're in your head, am I present? I know a trick and a tool is like just put awareness to your feet and that your feet are on the ground, and that makes you grounded and present because you're aware that your feet are on the ground, which means your attention, your mind, your monkey mind isn't thinking about a million other things because you're aware that your feet are on the ground right now, and that makes you present.
But another way is just dropping in. Come on, drop in with me. Drop. Take a breath. And forget everything you're thinking right now, all the questions. Just forget it all, right? Just forget everything that's going through, and just feel your whole body. Just feel everything. And there. Now. Oh yes, when you started to smile, that was a let go. That was something. That was a shift.
I was feeling when you were saying all that, I was attuning to the giddy, the subtle energy that's vibrating, that's exciting within me. That, you know, that life force, I guess people would say. I'm feeling that. I'm like, oh, it's vibrating over here, and I'm feeling where it is in my body, and just sitting in it and just kind of smirking at that awareness.
Well, it's always there all the time if you drop into it. It's always there because you have a lot of vitality, so it's always pulsing through you. So let yourself feel it, right?
Allowing ourselves to feeling it. Yeah.
Don't be afraid to feel all that aliveness.
Well, it's like saying don't think about the elephant in the room, and then you see a pink elephant or whatever. So
Right.
so it's easy to say don't do this, but what can we do to replace that with a positive?
By enjoying each moment in this incredible creation.
Exactly. And always remembering, no matter what, through the eye of the storm, up, down, in between, it's all a learning experience. Even the blackest of the black, or the worst of the worstest thing in the world, there's still beauty in that, because like Khalil Gibran says, when you understand the depths of sorrow, you know, then you can really appreciate the highs of the joy. But how are you understanding the fruitful of all the joyous of the joy if you don't know what the bottom of the pit feels like?
Right. And I think beyond duality, there's just this. There's just this. Simply this. There was a great, I mean, I've studied with a lot of these invited teachers, and they all say, it's just this moment. Be here now. Ram Dass said this. In each moment, there was a teacher, Paul Lowe, said, in each moment. That's the trick. Each moment, just as it is.
And you said with all these what teachers?
Advaita means non-dual teachers. There's, you know, that's a Hindu philosophy that there is no duality. There is no this or that. There's only this. There's only this now. So you're transcending this past, future, male, female, day, night. There's only this. If there's only this is whatever it is. There is no day or night because you're so present that there's just this.
And we're here, and we're in this, and we're here. And
that's the only place we can ever be.
Yeah. And we can just keep staying here. So
well, there's no place to go.
Yeah.
Right. So we can just for a moment we could just relax into that. Right. Without asking a question. I mean, if you want to, of course, but you just relax into this. Right.
Yeah.
Good. Now you're actually slowing down. You're actually more present. It's great. I mean, you could be anywhere you want, but there's another part of you that's emerging now because you're dropped in.
Speaking of dropped in, I feel like I'm shrinking right now. Do I look smaller? I just feel like I just shrunk.
You know what's shrinking is this hyperness, this activity, this doing. And so that's maybe an identity for you. I don't know. But as that starts to get more silent and relaxed, that starts to come into you. So that's my understanding what's shrinking. This thing is now just coming into the center of who you are. Just, can you feel that?
I'm feeling it, and I'm telling you right now, thank God, thank goodness gracious for recording this, because I'm going to go back to the recording, specifically this part, to see. I feel half the size right now.
Well, it's the agitation that's contained. It's not agitation in a negative way. It's just like this, there's so much going on for you, and you're all over the place. Is that what they say about you?
Yeah, and I feel like right now I just have to scream to like,
What, to go back to the old identity, right?
right.
But
Not
you don't have to go back.
no, I don't have to go
Isn't
back to that.
You don't have to be all over the place, right?
No, I'm right
Maybe,
here.
well, maybe you have to change the title of your show.
No.
Okay, I'm
We
kidding
love
you.
it.
I'm
Yeah.
kidding you.
Oh
It's
yeah.
a joke.
Oh yeah.
Isn't the name of the show She's All Over the Place?
Mm-hmm.
Well, suddenly you're not all over the place. Suddenly you're collapsing, shrinking, bringing all that all over the place right here.
I love it. And you want to know what's really exciting?
What?
Peter O. Estevez, he's amazing entrepreneur, over 25 years, multimillionaire. He has the Coming Clean podcast. I would love to make an introduction for you to, but he reminded me of top five, and the top five, the analogy probably of top five, right? The top five
No.
people. Shall I
Of
share with
what?
you? Okay.
What?
So when I was a kid, I had mentors, people I looked up to, and they were like my top five. Then I moved to California and I sought out new mentors, new coaches. Coming from my cross country background running, I always had coaches in my life to coach me to where the potential of who I could be, where I could go. And then like I outgrew them and kind of went on this whole entire journey. And then like he had this amazing woman on his podcast that I listened to. And then I had a conversation with him and he reminded me of it. And my friend Matthew from South Africa taught me years ago that five people, whether they're male and female, it's the same identity of how the masculine and female energy of the relationships of all, like now there's 9 billion people in the world. So based off who your top five is, the way Peter O. Estevez explains it and the woman on his podcast explains it is, you never want to be the smartest in the room. And so people
Why
to
not? Why not?
well, me personally, I want to always, for example, I want to soak up everything that you know and look up to you. What are you reading, right? Making contact. Who are you talking to? What are you doing? All the people you've interviewed over 30 years, I want to, be a sponge and suck that up. So if I'm the smartest one in the room, and my cup's already full, I want to surround myself with the new top five so I can be excited to learn more, to evolve more. So I'm just saying, like, I've known you for almost 10 years now. I mean, in 2014 we met, but but everything has divine, quote unquote, timing. I'm not really into time, but you know how that is. That's another conversation. But I want Alan Steinfeld on my new top five. I'm ready to like whoosh, put you on my new top five. Here we go. You're not going to get rid of me now.
No, that's okay. You're sweet. You're kind, and you have a great mind. And I think you're at the threshold of another level for you. It feels like there's something emerging in you that you're ready for, and maybe even waiting for.
Yes.
But didn't know what it was.
Yes.
I mean, not that it's me or for what I'm saying. It's something for you. It's you. It's something. It's like another stage of the rocket. It's a flowering. It's like everything you've been doing has led you to this new point of change.
Mm-hmm.
It's a time, like you're in this motion of being something different, of new,
yes.
unfolding, like a flower, like something, because everything you've done has gotten you to who you are now. And maybe you're ready to let go of who you are now, because maybe that's not who you ever was anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're the essence underneath that.
Yes, exactly. You're speaking my language. Everything that's happened from the moment I said earlier about the knowing, the evolution of where I am now, and I won't toot my horn or get into those things.
No, you can toot your horn. I'd like to hear what it sounds like.
Oh, okay. So I mean, a couple brushstrokes. Some people, everyone, like so many people, anywhere I go, all around the world, they're just like magnetized. They're like, oh, you're going to be really big. You're going to do something really, it's like, and it's like, what, or I know, but what is it? It's like that, like you said, the undiscovering of, I don't even know fully what it is yet, because that's the gift of life, but it is something miraculous, and it's something very beautiful. And
Well,
so
when you just be yourself, and I mean, you are yourself now, but when you like get underneath the personality and discover what's driving the excitement, what is the pure essence of you,
yeah.
then that will feel like emerge, that will flower, that will blossom
Mm-hmm.
into your true self, this true divine being.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's good. You don't have to say anything. I mean, you can if you want, but just drop in and just feel and relax your face a little bit. There you go. Yeah, don't do it. Don't do anything. You don't have to do anything. There, thank you. That was a genuine, real smile. Yes, that is genuine.
Yeah.
You, with not doing, you know, the Chinese say wu wei wu, do not doing. There's not, let it be done through you as you, but you don't have to be the doer.
I mean,
You're
you should,
just
you need to have your own, I mean, you can be an acting teacher for people.
right, whatever. But it's just that dropping in. Now you're dropped. You look totally different. You're in a way more relaxed. You're
I do.
more, and you
I feel
feel it.
it. I feel it.
Yes, yes. You, and so there's nothing you ever have to do. If, I mean, you can do all that other stuff, which is great because you're good at it and you're entertaining and delightful in many ways, you know. But there's this other wisdom. It feels like to me that emerges from this space. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this is just my perception. Other people might say, what's that guy talking about? But I'm seeing this maturing of the being, you know, this the greater intelligence, no, more like greater essence
Mm-hmm.
coming through you.
Wow. Thank you. And I'm so excited for anyone, whoever's watching and listening, because this is going to be a start of a new journey. Since you're on my new top 5, people will be able to see the evolution of my pure essence and dismantling the other stuff. So it'll be a journey. It'll be an exploration.
Well, it's a journey, but it's also right here, right now. There's no
Mm-hmm.
journey.
Mm.
I mean, there can be, but it's right here, right now. Let's, thank
Yeah.
you for breathing.
So something that keeps coming up,
Yes.
that I want to share with you, based off of some of the things you're sharing. And I mentioned, you and Dr. Joe Dispenza have been friends for so many years, decades. And what he is saying in science for over 2 decades is what all the modern scientists are saying now. So I've binged, Dr. Joe for years, have been a big fan, and I cannot wait to meet him in person. When you were mentioning the personality, and I know because I've studied, but based on the personality and what you're talking about, if you could maybe share more of your wisdom on that, and maybe encompass some wise words from your friend Dr. Joe Dispenza, that could be really cool.
Yeah, no, Joe, I know Joe from the Ramtha School. We were both students there before he went on the road and became this incredible teacher. He was actually teaching at this mystery school, which I was a part of for 20 years. He was a part of that. So it was like, it was about, I don't know, it was a lot of us there, but it was a sort of sacred teachings. But one thing Joe says, and I quote him in my book. Do you have the book there, right there
I
somewhere?
do.
Okay. At the end of the introduction, on the last page of the introduction, do you see before we go into chapter 1, I have a quote by Joe, and this is really key to, I think, what I'm trying to say in this book and what Joe's work is about. Do you see the quote by Joe? That Actually, I can bring it up here, maybe on my screen. Can I
Which page
share?
is it on?
It's the page right at the end of the introduction.
I'm like, one moment.
And let me see if I could bring that up here. I have that somewhere on my. No, I like that quote. There's a quote in there that. Anyway, I could just tell you it. If you can't find it, that's fine. Right here. Okay. Basically, he says that knowledge prepares us for the experience, right? So I wrote this book in order to give people knowledge because they haven't had the experience of making contact yet. But when you have the knowledge, you're prepared more to have the experience. So lots of people see things in the sky, they don't know what that is. But reading this book is a preparation for when we do meet the unknown, we do encounter those realities, we have a reference point for it. So you and your show are preparing people for other levels of experience. Because you're making this available to them. You can have experience without knowledge, but it's harder to integrate that. If you have knowledge, then experience has a reference point. Like, do you know the difference between cognition and recognition?
Share with me.
Well, you have to recognize something. You have to recognize something. Recognition means to recognize. Cognition means to understand something for what it is without recognition. So growing up, someone says, that's a table, this is a chair, that's a ceiling. You take that in, you touch it. It's like, oh, okay, I know what that table and chair is. So when you see it someplace else, you can recognize it because it's already been absorbed into your psyche. But when you see something unrecognizable, we have to open a space in our minds to bring in that reality, to cognize that reality, to make it real for us. If we don't cognize something, it's not in our awareness, but we're here to meet the unknown and cognize new realities of unknown awareness. This is evolution. This is the evolution of thought. This is the evolution of being, of intellectual development. Even, words characterize specific things. When we talked about words before, but if we have an experience there's no words for, then it's harder to communicate it. But if we can cognize it, integrate it, and communicate it, then we might be able to find the words that will communicate my experience to your experience. And some of that's just telepathic. What we were doing before, where we're dropping in to that self of you, there's no words for that, but it was a communication of nonverbal awareness that you were just deciding to drop into and be your pure essence.
Yeah, beautiful. Also, just this is like such a different independent example, but I heard with branding, the human eye, they need to, like, if you're introducing a brand, it's not just like a one-time thing. It takes the human eye 15
Right.
times to see it before it goes until
That's
they
called
register
recognition. Recognition. Yes,
it.
the cognition is so sometimes dense that you have to see it. Oh yeah, that's what that is. That's what that is. So yeah, it takes time to have recognition. So how do we deal with something we have no recognition for? That's what I'm asking you, Katie.
How do we deal with something that we have no recognition for?
Yeah, how do you, if let's say you see something strange in the sky that you've never seen before, what do you do with that? How do you integrate that into your experience? How do you even talk about it or communicate that with someone else who may not have the experience? I'm just asking you.
Yeah.
I don't have an
Well,
answer.
I can give you a short, fun story that I've never told anyone
Well,
from,
it's just us. Yes.
yeah. uh, when I was a kid, I remember, 14, my boyfriend would come pick me up. And in Michigan, driving down this one road, always going from one city to the next, it would get very, very smoggy and cloudy. And so we would drive, and when we were
Mhm.
driving, because of how
Mhm.
cloudy it would get, there was like this tall building, and it was circular with lights going around. So as a kid, I was like, ooh, I got those butterflies in my finger toes, in my toes, in the tips of my toes and my fingers. And I'm like, oh, it's a UFO. And I really always thought it was a UFO, and they were like by my house camping out. And then later on, I realized, with no fog there, oh, this is like something, and then it's like a water tank or something, and it's still there. And I every time I pass it, I'm like, oh, when I was a kid, I thought that was a UFO. I thought it was one of the space shuttles that, as a kid, you hear about things. So that's kind of one of the like recognitions that I had
Yes.
based on maybe movies, or what my frequencies would attune to, what I would hear with the cosmic intelligence of communication of consciousness that was buzzing around my energetic environment.
Right.
Now I would like to shift it into, through the decades of being involved with people like yourself, and going to Conscious Life Expo, and understanding like Contact in the desert, and you're a speaker there, like, you're like the headliner at Contact in the desert. And
Well,
you
one of them maybe.
yeah,
Yes.
but you're like the person, like, at Contact in the desert. I'm telling you from an outside perspective,
Right.
someone who
Right. Right.
goes to Disclosure Fest, and Jeff introduced me to the owner of Disclosure Fest for
Yeah,
us.
Adrian. I was just at Disclosure Fest a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that's very cool. He was going to have The Sophisticated Psychos perform because of the music we make. It's
Were
conscious
you
music.
there? Were you there in
No,
Chatsworth? Oh.
not this time, but
Oh.
I've been there before. In Los Feliz, was the only time I went, where it was like a few days, and it was in Los
Mhm.
Feliz. It was really cool, and Jeff had his booth set up, and the Ormus guy was there. Do you know the guy?
Ron Holman.
Yeah, he was there. I
Yeah.
actually put some of his Ormus beauty stuff on my
I like
face.
Ron. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
nice. He's very nice.
He's a good friend of mine. I like him.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So that's speaking from the people who buzz around the conscious festivals and events and stuff. I'm just, what people say. So, and it's exciting. So, what they say about you specifically, and who you are, so you're like a rock star in these spaces. And, yeah. And, so through learning, I've just been observing, and I see how frustrating a lot of people will be and get because of the resistance and the denial
Wait. Wait.
of.
Wait. Of what? What?
I'm
What are
telling
they?
you right now,
Oh, sure. Okay.
the resistance and the denial of what you mentioned at the beginning of the show, of the government. It's like people had to prove that this is real, and it's like it was such chaos to have to prove. And like you said, during the pandemic, now government has stated, yes, UFOs are a thing. And so there's that equilibrium line of not having to admit, and then people will be like, oh yeah, we told you so. But then, since there's this new evolution of, this blanket of yes, and now what? So I would like to talk about that a bit. The evolution of, it's taken so long just for now for
Yeah.
government to say yes, and when people already knew it for such a long time, and which created so much animosity with other humans to fight against other humans, trying to prove what they know or a feeling of their experience, and denying another human being of their own experience because a governed law didn't approve it to be true.
Right. First of all, we can't expect to rely on government or other people to tell us what is true. I think that's one of the bigger lessons about all this. Like, no one can tell you what's true for you. You know what's true for you. So that was part of, I think, what we had to learn. If I'm having a UFO experience and I'm seeing something or feeling or interacting, I don't need government to tell me, oh, you've had a real experience. But there is also on another level the official reality. There's the world that other people live in, or we think other people live in. So we all have to kind of get along in this kind of artificial reality. But the real, truer, deeper reality is that which you're experiencing. And I think, some people may be frustrated that the government hasn't come forward, but they know what they've experienced. They know that to trust their own mind, their own consciousness, their own interactions with another level of being is more exciting than what someone can say, oh yeah, you're right. So trust yourself. It comes down to trusting yourself. Trust your mind, trust your experience, trust your perceptions. They may not always be right, but it's you. And if someone comes along and says, maybe you could see it a little bit this way or a little bit that way, you thank them, because maybe they are seeing something you're not seeing, and we're all in this world to reflect each other, right? So we're all here to help each other evolve. If you're seeing something I'm not seeing, and even if it's something I'm doing and you're seeing this, it's like, oh, you're reflecting a part that maybe I'm not seeing. So trust yourself, but we can also trust other people and helping us evolve together.
Mm-hmm.
So getting back to the whole UFO thing, yes, there's more sightings, there's more interactions that people are having in a dream state. There seems to be more just an awareness that there's a reality to this. And when we are really, when let's say the government or the media comes forward and says, guess what, we're not alone, it'll just be a sigh of relief. It's not like I told you so. It's like, thank you, now we can get on with the true purpose of being here. Now we reach a level playing field where we're supposed to begin at, and welcome the rest of the cosmos in, because maybe they have technology that's going to get us off of fossil fuels, the addiction to fossil fuels, maybe the technology to clean up the planet, help with disease, help with social structures, help with our warlike nature. I think the more open we are, the more we can benefit from whatever is out there that's not looking to invade our world, but looking to uplift it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the debt that we're in as a society and the banking system, it's just like the hole is so deep. Like for that to be uplifted and
Well, they're not going to
nourished.
save us from ourselves. That's our own creation, and it's a total fabrication debt. I mean, who's in debt to? That's a corporate plot. This whole idea. I mean, if they make money and then charge interest on what they're making, then they're fabricating it twice fold. I mean, I think, yes, of course, there's debt if you borrow money, all that, that's true, but there's something strange underneath all that. Maybe I just don't understand it, but that, I think we need to change that whole system. Look at the movie Thrive 2. I
Oh,
just interviewed the director, Foster Gamble. He talks about non-authoritarianism, where we don't need some higher authority to answer to as far as how we're functioning in society.
yeah.
So we need a huge shift if we're really going to get this act together and meet the others on an even playing field.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to see what is the fair way of living, what is fair for everyone, not just the corporate interests, which are they only want to make more and more money. It's like what that quote by Deepak Chopra that you read. It's like, it's not me and mine. Can you read that again? Like, what
Yes,
did you read? Because
I
that
want to
was
read
so,
that. Here we go.
because that's what I'm talking
We
about.
we cannot separate the earth from its greater cosmic environment. What is needed is a new story, and Alan Steinfeld's Making Contact is a part of that story. Deepak Chopra.
But the first part of that line, you cannot separate me and mine from what?
You cannot separate the earth from its greater
Right,
cosmic environment.
right. So we don't own anything. It's like we're all here together, basically, is what I'm saying. So how do we live in a world where mm, there's really an abundance, isn't there, of everything?
Really, it's unlimited.
It's totally unlimited, but
What's
people have
yours is
been,
yours. What's mine
yeah,
is mine. And when I show up to an audition or something, no one's my competition because no one has what I have and I don't have what they have. And if it's meant for them, it's going to be for them. If it's meant for me, it's going to be for me. And there's enough for everyone.
exactly. There's totally enough for everyone, and you're unique in who you are. But to say this is mine, and I don't know, there's something about mm, the financial system that just seems corrupt. That's
Yeah.
all.
Well, you were mentioning, the fossil fuels. So I'm thinking, the banks who are going and they're doing all these things that are really hurting the environment. So by, defunding the banks and now they're decentralizing everything with, environmental
Crypto.
mining and
Mm.
crypto and doing it. And so we can be independent, like you said, not having a higher
Well, part of the corporate
hierarchy.
interest is to not acknowledge the UFO existence because they're not here to fill up their gas tank. They're not getting here across whatever time, right? They use another form of energy that is probably unlimited, that if the corporations knew that, they'd be out of business. If that was to be something that imagine having a little battery in your apartment or house there where you plug everything in and it was totally renewable all the time, and you just had something like that in your car that you never had to fill up. It just ran on perpetual motion. Or I think the universe functions on free energy.
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
that's in the 0 point. They're calling that the 0 point. So I think that will be more of a game changer than aliens and UFOs showing up. It's like, but there's going to be a lot of upset within the corporate interests to make sure that doesn't happen. There was a movie in the, I guess, 80s or 90s, Who Killed the Electric Car?
Hmm.
Because these electric cars were, now it's everywhere. Now there's been an adjustment to it. But when they first came out, there was a whole effort on the part of gas companies to make sure that never happened, electric cars. And
Hmm.
so we have to say, how are we feeding that corporate structure? How can we make a change so everyone can live equally free, in abundance, and in the pursuit of happiness?
Well, the
Right.
very first thing is pulling out the toxicity and the root of the systems that aren't serving us, that are,
What
um,
is that toxicity?
what is it? It's a multitude of things. It's entangled. So we have
It's
to.
greed. It's greed.
Yes, of course. The pig, the greed, the number one thing is the ego, and people not getting past the, materialistic, two-dimensional world of, just the materials, and it's greed. Totally, it's greed. But we're not. You can take what you want to take your greed with you. Where are you taking it?
Right.
Where
You
are you
can't take
taking
it
that
with you
greed?
when you, yeah, yeah,
Where are you taking that greed? So
nowhere.
I want to keep going on this. I definitely want to read this because, Alex Gray is one of my favorites. Alex Gray and Allison Gray, artists, and I haven't met them in person. Actually,
Oh,
Alex, I did one time.
you should come up to Cosm. We'll go up there.
Let's go.
Upstate New York. That's
Let's
where their
go.
art. Yeah,
Let's go.
definitely.
Let's go.
All right.
Chapel of Sacred Mirrors. I would love to. Let's go. I'm actually thinking about getting a place there too.
Up in
Um,
upstate New York.
like Hudson Valley. How far is it from Hudson
Hudson.
Valley? Yeah.
Yeah, it's Hudson Valley.
Yeah, I was
And
thinking out of the city, if everything's going to be happening, maybe get a place there because I have my car. So I can, it feels like you're in Europe, like it's so beautiful and charming with all the land and all the animals. So I was thinking maybe we'll see there or Ojai. We'll see.
I was just in Ojai. I really liked Ojai.
Love Ojai. It's so cool.
I
Like the
could live
people
in
there,
Ojai.
you can live. Okay, so if I have a place there or you have a place there, we'll be there and Hudson. We can go to both places.
Yeah, Ojai was just kind of a nice, small, perfect little town.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, the Ojai Valley Inn. I used to go to that spot all the
I know
time.
the Ojai Valley Inn.
Yeah,
Yes,
I've
I
done
love
a
that's a
lot of
beautiful
damage.
place.
Oh yeah, I've done a lot of spa damage there.
Spa damage?
Well, I guess going to the spa isn't damage, but it was amazing. The spa there is great. It's great. I'm not a golfer, but I'm just in the spa. But long story short, Alex Gray and Allison Gray, new realities are upon us. This is from Alan Steinfeld's new book. Alan Steinfeld provides one of the most informed and open-minded overviews of communication with alien intelligence and the UFO slash UAP phenomenon in his book, Making Contact. So that's Alex Gray and Allison Gray, the artists. They're amazing. Look them up.
They've been good friends. They're really great people.
Yeah.
They're dedicated to creativity and bringing in these new realities through their art.
Right. So that's what I wanted to share. You said, what is one way we can do this? And that's why it brought me to Alex and Allison, because through art, we can communicate in that language.
You're right.
Well, not right, but
no,
that
you're
you
right.
gave me the inspiration.
Art is a new language for communication.
Yes. And then so that I would like to talk about, and also the slash is UAP. So the government, circling back around on that, the UFO, the government is calling it UAP. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, that is a really good point. How'd you know about that? Because that's something I
attuned to you.
That's a really key point in changing our awareness of this phenomena. So UFOs means unidentified flying object. And that was always such a joke, because when you see something in the sky and you call it a UFO, you're identifying it as unidentified, right? So that was a kind of oxymoron, a kind of doublespeak that didn't make any sense. How do you identify something as unidentified and then you think you know what it is? You don't, right? So the government, because there's much more to this thing than just an object, are calling them now UAPs, unexplained aerial phenomena, because these are not just objects. There's a phenomena, there's a telepathy, there's a transmission sometimes, there's effect on time space. People have missing time. They go into altered states of consciousness when you see these things in the sky. Have you ever seen something in the sky, Katie? Unusual?
Of course. I mean, who hasn't?
Have you seen a UFO? I'm saying, or UAP? Have you seen something like that?
I don't know. If I can't be for certain.
Maybe you have? Maybe you might have?
Yes, I think maybe I might have. Yeah.
Well, you never forget those things. It has a huge impact on the consciousness of the observer. And so they're saying this is a phenomenon. These are not objects. These go deep into the cognitive, like we're talking about cognition, but they go deep into the cognitive awareness of the person. That's what the government is realizing as they start to study these things more and more. There's a influence on consciousness, and you wouldn't have that happen if they were just flying objects. So in order to advance our understanding of this, they've shifted from UFO to UAP. This is a kind of hint at what the bigger picture of this reality is really about, as far as these objects, things, whatever these things are.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. And to extend, just to communicate and share and to explore, keeping it on the ground level of, I feel, quote unquote, they. So when you say they, people are like, that's like a scary thing that could happen. But I feel, think, experienced, and I haven't shared this because some things I've experienced, and we can talk later and now or whatever, but some things I've experienced, I kept sacred to myself and my knowing, because sometimes when you say something, people will try to blah blah and like and try to make your painting a different color. We're like, yo, this is my painting. So by actually being silent and not communicating and not sharing, because a lot of people won't understand. Also, in the times of mental health and schizophrenia and illusions and putting a label on all these diagnoses, people can just write off, this person is crazy or this person is this. And people were scared to talk back in the day because they could get locked up or something could happen to them, or maybe even killed in some countries. But I feel that quote unquote they speak to us, whether we're conscious and aware of it or not, through, like you said, telepathy, through the TV,
I think that's true. It can come through. You can get signals and information. You can, absolutely. So don't doubt that. What kind of things have you gotten?
Oh, so specifically for me, when I was a kid growing up, I would go to the movies with a bunch of kids, and all the kids are going, and it's the times where you go to the movies just to be able to like hold someone's hand or to give them a kiss during the movie, like that young. And I would be in the movies. I would be in the movies, and I would communicate. I would communicate through language through the movies. I had signs telling me things, and I was very attuned and aware to all those things until I went to Hollywood, and you kind of get a new layer of skin and you go into a new direction and you tell yourself, oh, I'm never going to forget these things. I got signs, I said, from the universe. If I saw like a color or a signal, it was literally like, or a sign, my instincts would tell me to go left or right or into this direction. I would
Right.
tune into what was around me to see which direction I should go to. But specifically through movies, I definitely had communication through films.
Yeah, but what was the actual community? I'm just curious, what information did you get?
Oh, the information, they kept encouraging me and telling me I was on my path, and they would support me, and they were like my intuition to tell me to keep going on my path and to keep going in the direction and believe what I was believing in, and they would affirm that what I was thinking was correct. They would encourage me.
Great. And they're still doing that. They're still encouraging you because here you are on your path, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And doesn't it feel good?
Yeah, it feels good to be connected to it again, and to learn, to keep learning what I
Mhm.
don't know.
Right. And I think this is what's going to happen with the world as the world starts to make contact, where you can open up to what you don't know and welcome it, or you can be afraid of it and say, go away. But this is evolution. People didn't want to give up the horse and buggy for this automobile, this car, because mm, it was bulky, cumbersome, and you just had your horse. But eventually, enough people said, "Okay, I'm going to try something new," and it's changed, the face of the world. But we're into a new paradigm of thinking with this idea of making contact. Like, what does it mean to make contact? It's exactly what you just said: hearing communications, letting it come into you, and you were making contact that with these vehicles that were talking to you on another level of awareness.
And
And that's
so,
exactly what making contact is. Yes.
thank you. And then two things I would like to share. One, you mentioned earlier about a knowing and like the work that you do and the space that you hold, but maybe there'll be a moment where I will be a vessel in a bridge in a space where I will be able to share and communicate certain things in a cool, calm kind of way, with others, and just be a
Well,
vessel
you're
for
doing that
that.
now. Aren't you doing that
True,
now?
truly, truly, truly. You're right. Truly, we're doing that now. Yeah.
Well, isn't that what you do on your program? Be a vessel for communication.
Exactly, That's exactly it. You know, it's like I get people who are geniuses in their specific field of interest and passion, and then I get to, you know, excitedly learn more and hold space, so then I can learn more but then hold the space, so if someone else wants to know about that specific thing, they can go to your specific episode and take it in, and then go to the next level to get your book, and then go to your YouTube new realities, and then, you know, binge, like, you know, a few weeks they have to catch up on 3 decades, so to binge all the content
Keep
with
binging, yes, yes,
mm-hmm,
yes.
mm-hmm.
So no, that's it. We're here to just learn from each other. You know, Ramdas, you know Ramdas?
Love, yeah, of course.
Ramdas says we're just walking each other home.
Oh my gosh, I love this. I love it. I love it. And then, so Nikki and I, my music partner, we have the Sophisticated Cycles. The very first album we made, I'll have you hear it, I'll send it to you, but it's called Take Us Home. That's the name of the album. It's called Take Us Home.
We're going home. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the evolution, involution, evolution, the cycles of incarnation, of incarnation, reincarnation, all that. It's like, you know, we're old souls returning to the source, but after having the wisdom of embodiment,
Mm-hmm.
of being, and then you can actually ascend the body back to higher frequencies when you've
So,
owned it. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what,
So
yeah, go ahead.
yes. No, no. What were we saying?
Oh,
So what we?
so
Yeah.
what I want to share with, like, what I just shared for the very first time ever in my whole entire life, ever saying it out loud. Um, uh, then I reflect and contemplate through the years of hearing stories of green aliens or coming to you at nighttime, and, you know, people being scared, and I would always like, oh well, I never did that, and so I would start comparing my own experiences to other people's experiences, stories, and journeys, and I felt that was very conflicting throughout the years, and I didn't like that too much. So for anyone tuning in and hearing and listening, and like, oh well, I didn't experience this, or someone who's had experience with,
You're on a different level. Everyone's
yeah.
on a different level. So you might not experience something someone else. It's like we're all watching the same movie, but we're seeing it differently. You know, you just, so we can never compare your experience or my with anyone else's. You're unique for all your history and background and knowledge. It's, you know, sometimes people don't like somebody and then you meet them and you say, oh, this person's a great person, because it just is their perspective. So I don't usually listen to what other people say about this is scary or that. You have to need, I mean, it's great sometimes to listen to people like, you know, don't need to do this. You don't need to touch the fire to know it's hot. I mean, there are things people can tell you, but most of our knowledge is based on experience. And
Mm-hmm.
that's wisdom. That's the difference actually between knowledge and wisdom, you know? Knowledge is what someone else tells you. Wisdom is comes from experience. So
Oh, I love
that's,
that.
yeah, that's what we're here to. We're here to have the wisdom of experience in every
Growing up,
moment.
yeah,
What?
growing up, I would say, oh, I want to, you know, once I experience it, once I feel it, I didn't have this language. Once I feel it, once I taste it, but once I experience it, then I know. And then some person in my life growing up, well, why do you have to experience to know? It's like, when's a light bulb going to come on? When's a light bulb going to come on? Why do you have to experience to know? Like,
I think that's the
obviously,
only way.
it's obvious. No, the person would say, obviously, you know, you shouldn't do this. So then just don't do it. Why do you have to go and experience it if you know this is going to happen? Well, it's just like, why are you so jaded, and why are you so anti-experience? What is life about? You know?
We're here to experience. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We are here to experience.
Yeah. Speaking of experiences, I mean, I hope, you know, I've had a great experience thus far. I hope you have as well.
No, I've enjoyed working. I've enjoyed actually watching you sort of shift and morph, and maybe I have too. I don't know, but you, yeah, you're very dropped in a way where you're in touch with your feelings and emotions, and it's great to watch that. Yes, thank you. I've enjoyed that.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah, so circling full circle, anything else you want to bring up and share or talk about? Send a message to maybe the newcomers or anyone who's tapping in right now.
Right. So I wrote this book, Making Contact, as a, sorry, I wrote this book, Making Contact, as a way of making sense of the unknown. Like something is out there that people have been seeing forever, probably for ages, for hundreds of years, but we haven't identified it. And somehow, I think the veils between the dimensions are getting thinner. We're moving into higher rates of frequency. So I think we're going to have new experiences. I think this is what Joe Dispenza's work is about, changing our vibration. So maybe the Kundalini is waking up. The Kundalini energy is waking up in people. Have you had a Kundalini awakening?
I want to say two things. I don't know. And the other thing I want to say is I've been doing Kundalini since I was 12 before I even knew Kundalini was a word. I
But have you felt
naturally,
the energy come up your spine?
oh, yeah, of course. I love Kundalini is my favorite. Kundalini and Tibetan meditation.
Right. So anyway, some people just have that spontaneously because there's an awakening of consciousness that's happening. So I think we're really at exciting times.
Mm-hmm.
The human race is changing in our relationship to ourselves, the planet, and whatever's out there. There's a time of welcoming where we no longer have to feel we're like freaks of nature. You know, science would say, you know, life is an accident, it's an anomaly. It's they can't explain how it happened, but it wasn't supposed to happen. But what if that wasn't true? And what if life was an emergent property of creation? What if it was abundant throughout creation? What if intelligence was abundant? So when we start to tell that story, we start to feel differently about ourselves. We start to feel like maybe there's value in what I'm doing. Maybe there's for a greater purpose. Maybe civilization is not just a rise and fall of empires, but maybe it's a movement towards a greater awareness of who we are, like a divine sense of being that becomes the ahistorical, outside of history, moving to a time outside of history where we can be at one with the divinity that we are, that is
Mm-hmm.
emerging in us. And if we could live that way with each other, then I don't think there'll be wars or greed or poverty and atrocities and holocausts, because we're all a reflection of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, that just comes to me to say, but I think making contact is a key to being more human. That's what I'm saying. There's more to us than we've been told by our education, our media, our politics, our religions, our governments. There's so much more. And that moreness is a part of a greater field, a greater consciousness that transcends this planetary civilization, that brings us to a greater purview of awareness of being at one with the really great beings that inhabit the universe and
Mm-hmm.
are not caught up into the pettiness that have driven human emotion and division and subjugations.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
we need to stop being enslaved to who we were and embrace who we can be.
And what we were taught to be. So breaking the quote unquote generational trauma, breaking the generational systems,
Yes.
which is definitely happening on a multitude of levels. And I feel because of the pandemic, it's really opened up and dismantled a lot of the old grids and old ways, and it really literally opened up the world, this planet, to one another, for us to really see for the very first time how we are interrelated and affected by one another in the
Right. That is
Philippines.
why they're coming in greater numbers. That is why it is the time for making contact. Exactly. I love what you said there. That's exactly the reason we're at this position, to make contact with something greater, because we've all been through this passageway of a greater mind.
Yeah, I mean, we've come a long way. And, people I speak to, like you and my friends and everything like that, like it's artists. It's just, they think it's just the most exciting time to be alive. And we're so lucky to be where we are literally in this moment right now. And I mean,
Exactly.
it's
It is the
so,
most exciting time in human history.
mm-hmm.
Yes.
Cool. With that
Yes.
being said, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, let's have people have that as a takeaway, that we're at the forefront of the unknown, of change, of possibility, of things we've never seen before. So start making contact with yourself, with the planet, each other, and whatever unknown possibility is out there, because the unknown is waiting our discovery.
Yeah, I guess that's another takeaway of what you just said is steps on how to do that. So one, obviously getting the book, making contact. Now, it's available to read, and obviously with like Google, you can just highlight it and it can read to you nowadays with the technology. Do you
Right.
have the audio as well yet?
Yes, the audio is done really well by professional actors. I was really happy with how the audio came out. I read the introduction, but then we had actors read the other 11 chapters. And yeah, they actually really expressed these thoughts in very expressive ways. So yeah, the takeaway, I think, is this book prepares us for meeting something beyond our very limited notion of reality. The preparation is that reality is not what we've been told. It's 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 something almost unfathomable, but we have to know that's true in order to welcome it into our awareness.
So, maybe it's a whole nother book on like how to prepare, right? Or like step by steps of what people can do specifically,
Well, first read the book with an open mind. You could do
right?
that.
Mm-hmm.
Know that there's more possible for each of us. Know that you're not your personality. Um, Understand that the unknown is nothing to fear, but it's something to look forward to with anticipation and excitement, because what we're fearing about the unknown is just our projection of the known. The unknown, there can be no fear because it's empty and available and forming. If you are afraid of it, you're just projecting your knownness onto it. Let go of what you know. Krishnamurti said true freedom is freedom from the known. When you can let go of what you know and welcome the unknown, you are surfing at the edge of forever.
Hmm. Beautiful. I'll have to like listen to that again.
Do you know what
Oh,
I mean? Searching at the edge of forever? That's the title of my next book. No, I don't know about that.
it
But
could be.
it means you're in this present moment. You're leaning into the wind. It's like instead of reflecting on reality and thinking about it and then something to say, you're letting it kind of come to you as moment to moment awareness.
I love it. I love it. I have a visual when you say it, but the
What's your
actual,
visual?
the
What's the
visual
visual?
of being on the edge and it being kind of like your background of like navy blue with stars and being on the edge of this cliff that's so high and it's unknown and being able to just that feeling that you feel right before you're going to go like down a roller coaster ride,
Right.
like feeling that like, but I love the
But
gracefulness
feeling
of
it every minute,
yeah,
feeling that, yeah.
that being aware to check in with myself moment to moment, just keep aware to keep checking in. But then I love the gracefulness of leaning into that, right? Instead of like fighting the resistance or being resistant to it, which everyone knows, like false evidence, fear is false evidence appearing real. So I mean, right, so it's like not happening. So the unknown, that's why I really get the terrifying unknown actually really excites me, but not everyone
Well,
is like that.
it's not terrifying if you don't have any expectations or
Ooh,
projections.
yeah.
It's just the next moment.
Yeah.
So we'll see what unfolds in the next moment.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you for your time and
Oh
your
yeah.
beautiful inquisitive nature, your excitement, your vitality, your that cute little way that but the enthusiasm of exploration. Thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Mm.
you. And I look forward to seeing you in a few weeks.
Yes, let me know.
Yeah, we'll meet up and then
And come to my book opening. God, the people listening to this, I'm going to do a
yeah.
big book launch in New York in sometime in the middle of September. So you can let your listeners know about that.
In the middle of
Okay.
September. And then how can people, there'll be show notes, but let some people know one or two fast ways to find you.
Right. Well, you can buy my book on Amazon. Go to Making Contact, Alan Steinfeld. Just you get the Kindle, you get the audio, or you can get the hardcover. I think is like a big discount on Amazon right now for the hardcover. And listen to my practically daily YouTube channel where I talk about UFO disclosure, how it interfaces with our personal nature, our personal reality, and lots of experts in the field, people who've had some really way out experiences like hybrids, star seeds, walk-ins, ETs, non-humans, people have really experienced. So I try to seek those people out and interview them, or government insiders, or researchers. So that's my YouTube. That's youtube.com/new realities. You can email me at newrealities@earthlink.net. You can watch my television show every Monday night on Manhattan Cable. That's MNN. That's the station, Manhattan Neighborhood Network, Channel 3, 9 p.m. Monday nights. But most everything's on my YouTube, and my website should be coming back. I'm rebuilding it. That's newrealities.com. And start making contact. Thank you, Katie. Great to make contact with you.
Yeah, my pleasure. And two other things real quick. For some of the people who are on Instagram, you are on Instagram.
Yes, I don't check my Instagram that much, but it's Alan Steinfeld, Alan_Steinfeld. I'm on Facebook. Yeah, you can find me multiple ways,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay, cool. And then you asked, but we kind of didn't get too into it. So I wanted to make sure the listeners like,
Yeah.
oh man, they didn't even talk about it. In the depths of the hybrids, right? So with the hybrid conference, is that yearly? How often is the hybrid
That's going to be
conference?
about a yearly thing. So I don't think you just you finished your definition. Hybrids are people like some people believe are partly alien, partly human, and they've come to share a higher wisdom. They're not just freaks of nature. They're actually been planted here to start to uplift the consciousness of human beings with a nonviolent approach, with understanding telepathy, with remote viewing, non-local targets. There's many aspects to the hybrid mind, but it's more an upgrade of the human. And we are actually hybrids ourselves. We've been genetically upgraded from the Anunnaki, some people say. So the hybrid conference talks about all this stuff, and you can find the replay of that on portaltoascension.org. Look for the hybrids. And what we have coming up in October is the Starseed Conference. Now, starseeds are beings that you're probably a starseed. They've come from someplace else, another, and they bring this awareness with them into this reality. And they are really changing the face of humanity in a good way, in a very good way. They're
Yeah.
bringing in higher ideals, integrity, honesty. Let's honor the earth. These are coming in with young children. Read the 10th chapter by Mary Rodwell. She interviews these children 9 and 10 years old, or younger even, who talk about, I don't know how they even know that, but we need to save the earth. We need to love the earth. I mean, they're coming in with this knowledge because they remember where they came from.
Love all what you're saying. Yes, indeed. And God, I mean, I could just keep going on here, but Barbara Lamb, it was so overwhelming. There are so many different kinds, and she breaks it down and tells you all the different kinds.
Yes.
And I was just, as a lucky observer, just listening, and I was like, And I was listening to the intuitive hit of like 3 that she mentioned that I'm like, oh yeah, that could be me, or oh yeah, that's me, something like that, you know. But Starseed, definitely, I'm definitely connected to the Starseed.
Yeah, come to the Starseed conference, and everyone's invited. I have lots of stuff on Portal to Ascension. Neil Gore does a really great job bringing in new information, so we partner in that. And some of the conference, like the hybrid and the walk-in conference. Walk-ins, yes, that's another conference we did, the first of its kind. But that's a whole other show. I'm getting tired.
Well, think about me from all of them. I'll be there. I'm showing up. I'm like, just, you know, I'm a part of it.
But you have my number. Call me when you come to New York.
Of course, I'm knocking at your door. I know where you
Okay.
are. I know exactly
I'm right
where you
near
are.
Caravan of Dreams. You know Caravan of Dreams?
I know, but I've been to your office.
You have? Which office were you at?
The one where Paul is.
Oh, that. Yes. Well,
Are you still
that's
there?
been closed. No, but I'm downtown East Village, so come there.
Really? We're right next to each other.
Where are you?
I'm not going to say it on right now, but I am in the area.
Okay,
my
good.
condo is in the area. So
okay, good.
But basically, I'm by the Flatiron Building.
Okay, I know where you are. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's stay in touch.
Yeah, and I would love to have you back on She's All Over the Place in the near future. We have a lot more to talk about.
All over the place tonight. You're really not. You've changed. Maybe you need to change the title of your show. She's not all over the place.
Yeah, but we really talked about a lot, right? So we're all over the place.
But you were right here with me. You were right present. You weren't all over the place. You were just, for the most part, you were kind of dropped in.
Thank you. I look forward to dropping in a lot more.
That is totally up to you. You don't need me to remind you of that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you need someone to remind you of it, but you don't need anyone to do that. Only you could do that. If that's what you want to do, you might like being all over the place. That might work for you. What do I know?
So you hear that? It's our choice. It's the power of the choice.
But what is most efficient, functional, and enjoyable?
Yes.
Instead of habitual behavior. Yeah. That's the thing.
Yeah, following the joy and the excitement.
And look at what your habits are. I try to do that. What am I doing that's unnecessary? That's a defense or protecting an old wound. And you go into that and it's like, oh, I don't have to do that behavior anymore. I can just be open and loving. So we have to keep looking at our behaviors and see, why are we really doing that? Why are we all over the place? Why are we? Because maybe that's a form of protection about something we didn't want to face.
I've explored that. And when I had this episode, it's called Removing Guilt and Fear, and I explore She's All Over the Place and what that really means.
And what did it mean?
It means a couple things. I'll share with you real quick. In a nutshell, she's all over the place because I've traveled the world, literally, which has been amazing. All over the place, all the different interests I have, all over the place. I felt like a bird in a cage and I wanted to get out. So I ran from all my circumstances and everything I knew, to be in joy, to be in nirvana, to be in ecstasy, to explore, to create the new, to get away from everything that I knew. So I was running from everything that I knew, so I didn't have to face it. And then I went on, after I traveled the whole entire world, then I chose to go within and face what I was running from. Why was she all over the place? Because I was distracting myself so I didn't have to face the things I didn't want to look at, until I chose to look at them and then chose to face them and then learn and grow through them. And
Beautiful.
So thank you. And Iris, she's this fashion icon. You probably know her. She has an amazing documentary called Iris, Iris. And and I knew this before watching it with my godmother, Liana, which is how we know each other. We were watching this fashion documentary 5-6 years ago, and Iris talks about, she's like in her 90s and she lives in the 70s, and she has storages filled with all these colorful, beautiful fashion garments, rugs, all this stuff. And she's so busy, and she keeps herself so busy because she gets depressed. She feels she's going to die. It's like, it's a whole thing. And I'm like, oh, I totally identify. I keep so busy. I've kept so busy. I've it was so hard for me to learn to slow down, and face those things, the resistance. It was just, I built so much resistance, and then to really dismantle that resistance of the unknown and explore those things. That's how She's All Over the Place came. It came from travel and joy, but it came from my own insecurities too, and not wanting to face the stuff what was going
Oh,
on.
that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, my
Well,
pleasure. Thank
thank you
you.
for
Yeah,
dropping in there and exposing. I hope I
yeah,
could drop in there too in that way.
yeah, yeah.
Thanks, Katie, for your time.
My pleasure. Okay, we'll see you next time.
Definitely stay in touch.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you so much for being here and tuning in. Grab the book immediately. Check out the show notes. Stay in contact, literally, and explore making contact. And definitely tune in with Alan. And if you have any stories that you want to share, we want to hear them and we want to hear from you. So let's keep the conversation going and make an impact for one another by sharing our stories, not thinking we need to hide and be isolated alone, because there are a lot of people having experiences and a lot more people are being comfortable with sharing those experiences. Like you heard me sharing experiences today for the very first time, and Alan being here sharing his experiences. Okay, we'll see you next week, and that is it. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.